millions of champion combinations and master countless tactics as you take on raid bosses, dungeon runs, campaign matches, and even PvP arena matches. With hundreds of artifacts to equip and over 500 champions, you can completely build your own team, your own champions, and play raid your way. So today I would love to show you my top 5 legendary champions that I am desperate to get. So if you guys have got these champions, please let me know in the comments below and I will be very jealous. So I'm going to go from 5 to 1, starting with the Ogryn tribes, and I would love to get the War Mother. Look how terrifying she is with the skulls on her head, and I really like this skill that she has, the special bray. I think she'd be a great addition to my team. Then at number 4 we have the Knight's Revenant. I would love to get hold of Norma. Look at that like red craziness that's going around her body. She looks so badass and so terrifying, and I would love to have her skill of the weirding dance. Heals allies by 15%, which is insane. Then at number 3, I would absolutely love to get Dark Elf. Now, the Dark Elf that I would really love is Xavia. I just think she looks so cool. Look at her dark wings. And also, I love this skill here, the Deadly Catalyst. She would be so amazing in my team. And then we have to go up here, of course, to the Demon Spawn. That's right. Now, I've got to get Duchess Lilitu. Look how evil she looks. I just love her wings, and she just looks so terrifying. And I think her skill, Shroud of Souls, would be amazing. And at number 1, we of course have the High Elves and the Arbiter, who I would love to get. Oh, I just love her sword, and I would love to use her skill Enforced Humility. She would just, she would queen my team. And I've got to note that this month Raid's got a jam-packed schedule of events to kick off the summer, as well as a load of new content. As always, they've got a bunch of brand new champions coming out, and every single one looks absolutely badass. I mean, just look at these guys. There's also a new rotation of the Doom Tower, which I definitely want to finish this month, so I'm going to be trying to summon as many of these champs as possible to see if they can get me to reach the top. Raid's always got a lot going on, and this month is no different, so don't wait around and miss out. If you want to get a huge head start in Raid, all you have to do is hit the link in the description or scan my QR code and you'll get an epic hero Chunuru, who's amazing in the Doom Tower. 200k silver, 1 XP boost and 1 energy refill and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get in game. All of this treasure will be waiting for you here. Once you're in, you can find me in the game under the name Murmurs, and if you're fast you can join my clan. And it's that easy. Just click the link in the description and I'll see you in the game. Hello. There. Shh. It's okay. I heard that you're having a hard time, so I thought I would drop in since I only live next door and check on you and maybe help you sleep. I'm sorry to hear that you're having a hard time and you've had a bad day, but it's okay. I'm going to make sure that you're comfortable and you'll be well looked after. Don't worry. So just focus on relaxing, on getting rid of those negative feelings be okay. It's all going to be okay. And I even brought my little rhyme book with bedtime stories and sleepy facts and a hairbrush and some ice globes to help cool around your face, just to see if I can give you some nice company for the next half hour or so, and hopefully you'll fall asleep. If you do, I'll just let myself out. Why don't you take some deep breaths? I can see that you are still struggling, so just breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. And breathe in and out. There. It's okay. And it's going to be okay. You've got this. It's okay. You're amazing, strong, and brave. And it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. You're wonderful and you're loved by so many of us. And we really care for you. We just want to see you feel better. Sometimes it's really hard not to feel down and to pick yourself back up. But I know you can pick yourself back up. I know that you can get there. You've got this. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm just going to gently stroke your eyebrows. This is something that my mom used to do to me when I was younger. Just stroking the eyebrows. And it really helps you relax and hopefully fall asleep. Relax. Relax. This picture is actually, that looks like Central Park in New York in the snow. And there's glitter on some of the trees and on some of the falling snowdrops with a pink umbrella. It's one of my favorite pictures. I love the snow and thinking about cozy winters. Although when it's winter itself, I tend not to enjoy it too much. But there's something magical. A few years ago, I was in New York City years ago in February, and it was very, very cold, and I was walking up almost at Central Park when it started to snow, and I got to almost reenact that picture with my umbrella, and the snow was getting thicker and thicker, and there were children making snowmen already. It was just so magical. Time could have stood still. Beautiful memory. Beautiful memory. And sometimes when we're feeling down or we're feeling sad, it's good to think about a happy time. And sometimes it feels like things won't get better, but remembering good times just helps you remember that things always change and they always do get better, and there are good times to come, because probably you've not had the best day of your life yet. You probably have the best day of your life still to come. And that is a wonderful thought. Wonderful thought. So, just relax. You've got this. You've got this. Can you think of some memories, places you've been, things you've seen, amazing times that you've had? Sometimes now I think it's difficult to remember life before the pandemic. It's very different now, and it's difficult seeing it go back to normal. But it will. We've just got to keep in there. Got a little brush. A little wooden brush. And I'm just going to brush your hair while I chat to you. Okay. So have a good think. For me, I always go back to, I've told you before, Florida, Disney World, even Sicily. One of my favourite days was in Sicily, in a little cliffside town called Taormina, kind of southeast Sicily. It was very warm, and there were fresh little potted Sicilian lemon trees everywhere. It was very beautiful, and I went to a restaurant that was situated right at the top of the cliff, and beside my table was a railing, and you could see out to the whole bay, and it was just beautiful. You could see the little yachts just bobbing up and down. It was really quite spectacular. I very much enjoyed. And it's remembering days beautiful days. Could even be at home. Perhaps there was just a really good day that you had at home. I remember it was the week before the pandemic lockdown, and I had a big party at my house with a lot of colleagues and ex-colleagues from my previous company, and they all came and we had such good fun. It was a really good laugh, lots of games, drinks, food. I don't know how I managed the food, and it was just such a wonderful evening. I just love to think of times where life feels good, because it can always feel good. We're not always going to feel good. It's up and down. So it's really good to appreciate the times that are good and remember them when we're feeling low, when we're feeling lonely, and we're feeling a bit out of steam. A little bit out of steam. I also have this little wooden roller. It's like a little face roller, and it's designed to be good for rolling and stimulating blood flow to your face, and perhaps that will help you feel better. So we might as well give it a try. I'm just gonna sit further on your bed if you don't mind. Like so. There. It's a lot easier to do this. But don't stress. It's all going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Sometimes I love remembering Christmases, because while things have been lonelier during the pandemic, Christmas is always a time where you can remember at least a Christmas where you spent it with friends and family. And so I find it's a nice memory to think of Christmas, the time at Christmas, and what fun you had. I just love waking up on Christmas morning. The excitement is just so fun. I love it. Even as an adult. Or a holiday. Even just sitting on your balcony, looking out to the sea, perhaps a glass of wine or water in hand, maybe with your favourite book. Calm, peaceful, relaxing. Calm, peaceful, and relaxing. That's what you have to remember. Those times to help get yourself nice and relaxed. So just have a little think for me. Have a little think. I'm also just going to use the ice globes on you as well. Like so. these away. And if you want them out again, just let me know. So, would you like some bedtime stories read to you? We'll see what we can find. Now I like this one. I've read this before, but I do think it's a very good message. Yeah. It's called The Selfish Giant. Every afternoon, as they were coming from school, the children used to go and play in the giant's garden. It was a large, lovely garden with soft green grass. Here and there over the grass stood beautiful flowers like stars, and there were 12 peach trees that in the springtime broke out into delicate blossoms of pink and pearl, and in the autumn bore rich fruit. The birds sat on the trees and sang so sweetly that the children stopped their games in order to listen to them. How happy we are here, cried to each other. One day the giant came back. He had been to visit his friend the Cornish ogre and had stayed with him for 7 years. After the 7 years were over, he had said all that he had to say, for his conversation was limited, and he determined to return to his own castle. When he arrived, he saw the children playing in the garden. "What are you doing here?" he cried in a very gruff voice, and the children ran away. "My own garden is my own garden," said the giant. "Anyone can understand that, and I will allow nobody to play in it but myself." So he built a high wall all around it and put up a notice board that said, "Trespassers will be prosecuted." He was a very selfish giant. The poor children had nowhere to play. They tried to play on the road, but the road was very dusty and full of hard stones, and they did not like it. They used to wander round the high wall when their lessons were over and talk about the beautiful garden inside. How happy we were there, they said to each other. Then the spring came, and all over the country there were little blossoms and little birds. Only in the garden of the selfish giant it was still winter. The birds did not care to sing in it as there were no children, and the trees forgot to blossom. Once a beautiful flower put its head out from the grass, but when it saw the notice board, it was so sorry for the children that it slipped back into the ground again and went off to sleep. The only people who were pleased were the snow and the frost. "Spring has forgotten this garden," they cried, "so we will live here all year round." The snow covered up the grass with her great white cloak, and the frost painted all the trees silver. And then they invited the north wind to stay with them, and he came. He was wrapped in furs, and he roared all day about the garden and blew the chimney pots down. "This is a delightful spot," he said. "We must ask the hail on a visit." So the hail came. Every day for 3 hours he rattled on the roof of the castle till he broke most of the slates, and then he ran round and round the garden as fast as he could go. He was dressed in grey, and his breath was like ice. "I cannot understand why the spring is so late in coming," said the selfish giant, as he sat at the window and looked out at the cold white garden. "I hope there will be a change in the weather." But the spring never came, nor the summer. The autumn gave golden fruit to every garden, but to the giant's garden she gave none. "He is too selfish," she said. So it was always winter there, with the north wind, the hail, the frost and the snow, and they danced about the trees. One morning the giant was lying awake in bed when he heard some lovely music. It sounded so sweet to his ears that he thought it must be the king's musicians passing by. It was really only a little linnet singing outside his window, but it was so long since he had heard a bird sing in the garden that it seemed to him to be the most beautiful music in the world. Then the hail stopped dancing over his head, and the north wind ceased roaring, and a delicious perfume came to him through open casement. "I believe the spring has come at last," said the giant, and he jumped out of bed and looked out. What did he see? He saw a most wonderful sight. Through a little hole in the wall, the children had crept in, and they were sitting in the branches of the trees. In every tree that he could see there was a little child, and the trees were so glad to have the children back again that they covered themselves with blossoms and were waving their arms gently above the children's heads. The birds were flying about and twittering with delight, and the flowers were looking up through the green grass and laughing. It was a lovely scene. Only in one corner it was still winter. It was the farthest corner of the garden, and in it was standing a little boy. He was so small that he could not reach up to the branches of the tree, and he was wandering all round it, crying bitterly. The poor tree was still covered with frost and snow, and the north wind was blowing and roaring above. "Climb up, little boy," said the tree, and it bent its branches down as low as it could, but the boy was too tiny. And the giant's heart melted as he looked out. "How selfish I have been," he said. "Now I know why the spring would not come here. I will put that poor little boy on the top of the tree, and then I will knock the wall down, and my garden shall be the children's playground forever and ever." He was really sorry for what he had done, so he crept downstairs and opened the front door quite softly and went out into the garden. But when the children saw him, they were so frightened that they ran away, and the garden became winter again. Only the little boy did not run, for his eyes were so full of tears that he did not see the giant coming. And the giant stole up behind him, took him gently by his hand, and put him up on the tree. And the tree broke out at once into blossom, and the birds came and sang on it, and the little boy stretched out his two arms and flung them round the giant's neck and kissed him. The other children, when they saw that the giant was not wicked any longer, came running back, and with them came spring. "It's your garden now, little children," said the giant, and he took a great axe and knocked down the wall. And when the people were going to the market at 12 o'clock, they found the giant playing with the children in the most beautiful garden they'd ever seen. All day long they played, and in the evening they came to the giant to bid him goodbye. "But where's your little companion?" he said, "the boy I had put into the tree." The giant loved him the best because he had kissed him. "We don't know," answered the children. "He has gone away." "You must tell him to be sure and come here tomorrow," said the giant. But the children said they did not know where he lived, and that they had never seen him before. And the giant felt very sad. Every afternoon when school was over, the children came and played with the giant, but the little boy whom the giant loved was never seen again. The giant was very kind to all the children, yet he longed for his first little friend, and often spoke of him. "How I would like to see him," he used to say. Years went over, and the giant grew very old and feeble. He could not play about any more, so he sat in a huge armchair and watched the children at their games and admired his garden. "I have many beautiful flowers," he said, "but the children are the most beautiful flowers of all." One winter morning he looked out of his window as he was dressing. He did not hate the winter now, for he knew that it was merely the spring asleep and that the flowers were resting. Suddenly he rubbed his eyes in wonder and looked, It was certainly a marvellous sight. In the farthest corner of the garden was a tree quite covered with lovely white blossom. Its branches were all golden, and silver fruit hung down from them, and underneath it stood the little boy he had loved. Downstairs ran the giant in great joy and out into the garden. He hastened across the grass and came near the child, and when he came quite close, his face grew red with anger, and he said, "Who hath dared to wound thee?" For on the palms of the child's hands were the prints of 2 nails, and the prints of 2 nails on the little feet. "Who hath dared to wound thee?" cried the giant. "Tell me that I may take my big sword and slay him." "Nay," answered the child, "but these are the wounds of love." "Who art thou?" said the giant, and a strange awe fell on him, and he knelt before the little child. The child smiled at the giant and said to him, "You let me play once in your garden. Today you shall come with me to my garden, which is paradise." And when the children ran in that afternoon, they found the giant lying dead under the tree, all covered with white blossoms. Well, with that, I'm going to leave you now to sleep. But everything's okay, and you're going to be fine. Sweet dreams.